One of the projects I am currently working on is for the Creativity Conference, which is a big event happening this August in Reykjavik, Iceland, where about 50 incredible world-class creative speakers are coming together, and we'll be delivering sessions on all aspects of creativity. We've got filmmakers, photographers, choreographers, martial artists, literally every single type of creative you can think of is going to be there. And one of my roles as assistant manager for the Creativity Conference is to host the official conference podcast, where I discuss with speakers about all aspects of creativity and what inspires them and makes them tick as a creative. And today I am lucky enough to be interviewing Dan Mace, who is an incredible award-winning South African filmmaker, as well as a YouTuber with 750,000 subscribers. It's an honor to be interviewing Dan, who I've watched for so many years. And yeah, hopefully you enjoy the interview. Dan, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm really good. 2022, much better than 2021, which was far better than 2020. So yeah,
Yes.
it's a good year. Stoked.
I just mentioned the Brew Show, but what are some of your other current creative projects that you're allowed to talk about that you're particularly excited to get out of bed in the morning and work on?
Cool. Yeah, there's quite a few different things, which is problematic because I feel like, I don't know, I get sort of involved in a project. How do I say this? I always want to throw myself 100% into something, and then when it starts to hit that boring part within the project, then I try and reignite it with a new project. So then I sit with like three projects that I'm equally as passionate about. So I think for one example is I've been developing a feature film for 3 years, which is also, it shouldn't be in the script phase for 3 years. I mean, some film directors would say, that's completely fine and normal, but yeah, I've reached the point where we've been developing the script and workshopping the script, and it's just, I know that if I go the next step, then it's going to be 6 months. So I've been like holding that off with smaller projects, and I've been waiting for the confidence to take that leap of faith. But in the meantime, I've been working on the Brew Show for Discovery Plus, and we've been doing a bunch of other films with Discovery Plus as a company. And I'm busy changing the business to, it's called All of Us. So from Joe Films to All of Us, I've brought on a partner for the first time in my life. His name's Con Burtish. He's a highly awarded creative from South Africa. And yeah, so I don't know how much I can really, so All of Us it's a creative network, a global creative network that we've set up on a Discord channel, where in 2019 I did a show on my YouTube channel called The Not Normal Show, where I had an online map where you could come on and plant your unfinished ideas, which were seeds, and then you could vote on them, and 40,000 seeds were planted. And I flew to, the goal was to fly to all of them, right? To go and complete these ideas with people. I got to like 12 of these ideas in a year. The intent was to do one a week, but that's ridiculous. Flying there, shooting, editing. So it took me about 2.5 weeks or 3 weeks to do them. Long story long, okay? The reason why I'm mentioning that is because once I got through that, I had all this data, all these filmmakers around the world, and I was wondering, what do I do with that? How can I take this further? So we slowly rolling this out, where we're creating these global films with filmmakers from all around the world. I think we've got about 100 different countries around the world now, where we can access. It's the first time to create actual sustainable films where you don't have to burn jet fuel and drive cars and stay in expensive hotels. And then also in the next, where it's completely authentic, which I think is, with the Gen Z market, the new generation, it's the Gen Zs are the first to call bullshit, and this is a true way to create completely unfiltered and truly authentic pieces of film through using the actual community to do so within that area. I think that was a hell of a lot of information there in one go. So yeah, we can slowly break those down. But yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it, I think, with what I'm busy with right now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a great idea. And a little shout out. I was part of the 100 filmmakers contingent that did the one of the films that I think is on Discovery Plus now. I don't know
Oh
if I made the
yes.
cut. I haven't seen it, but I was
Oh, we
part of
actually
the
screened it last night. Yeah, yeah, we screened it on the Discord last night. The What Does Happiness Mean to You film.
yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, sorry I wasn't there, but
I'll
I
No,
can't
no
wait to see
worries. I'll
it.
send it to you. Yeah.
Perfect. I understand that you had COVID fairly early on in the pandemic, in terms of the grand scheme of things, and I understand that you got hit pretty hard by it. How, other than affecting your physical health for a few weeks, how did it affect your overall sort of workflow and creativity? Did you find that you were more sort of creatively enabled or stifled by the challenges it posed?
Here in South Africa, it caused a lot of controversy when I first found out that I had COVID, um, because a friend of mine, Casey, made a video. Casey Neistat's a YouTuber, obviously, and yeah, we all got sick. Him, myself, Jesse, and we just didn't know what it was then, and that was way early on. I guess that was in like beginning of February, end of January, um, 2020. Then I had multiple doctors. I saw three different doctors, um, and I said, yeah, there's this flu thing happening in China, and that was all we were getting told at the time in the States. They were like, "There's no way. It's absolutely impossible. That sickness doesn't come here." Um, and then I've gotten a plane about a month later. Um, Flew home, and they were doing all of the temperature tests and everything, thermometer, and I went through the airport, and I came back, and it was my bachelor's, and I went to a weekend away, and I couldn't taste anything. And I spoke to my father-in-law, who's an ENT, and he said, "Oh yeah, that could have that just it can randomly happen to some people." And then on the Tuesday, he got an email from the World Health Organization to say that this is one of the symptoms. So he said, just go for a test. And I came out positive. Um, but because I had attended my bachelor's and we went to this festival, I had to go and tell the festival, which I think in turn, I don't know if they had to give back all the money for the tickets, but I'm assuming that's what happened. And yeah, they were very angry and they made a big scene about it. And I got known as this, or labeled here at least, as like this guy who goes around, this influencer, that goes, this world traveling bad influencer that goes around like infecting people and stuff. And it was really difficult for me. I was getting, my wife and I were getting really harsh emails and messages from people that we thought were friends. And so that side of it really affected my mental state, and which definitely controls my creativity. I'm one of those, like, I either go very high or very low, and I think when I'm very low, that's where the creativity happens. But it comes out when I'm high enough to release that stuff. When I'm confident enough to release the stuff that I was thinking about when I was like low down. So I'm sure a lot of creativity happened in that part of feeling like hopeless and shitty. And then I made a lot of films from there, and quite a lot of really like success ones that did well on YouTube, I guess, if you want to gauge success and with the metrics of views and likes. Um, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's when I was just in my garage and I was making music out of a brick, and like I got married with cardboard guests in my garden, and I think being confined to like my walls of my house, there was something with it that just really helped me think outside the box like I've never really done before.
I saw that you recently spent some time with Casey, who you mentioned, and some other big creators, Mr. Beast and Logan Paul. That's quite an eclectic mix of creators,
Yeah, yeah.
all in South Africa in one group. What was what was spending time with that group like? And were there any sort of takeaways that you gleaned from them?
totally. Um, I think first of all, uh, Logan is just such an incredible and wise person, very thoughtful. Um, and I don't think that, well, from my side, originally watching his content in the way that maybe um, he even painted himself within his YouTube videos in the way that the media definitely paints him. And I think his brother as well, like thrown in the mix there. I judged him before I actually got to meet him properly, and meeting him, I was really surprised isn't the right word, but yeah, I was firstly honored to meet him, and he had actually watched my videos before, and when I met him, he said, "Ah, I've been actually busy been watching your videos," and I thought, "Fuck, that's pretty crazy." Um, Casey sent me a video of Jimmy and Logan both sitting and watching my videos. He obviously got them to do it because he's a legend like that. But that was really that was crazy for me to see. So yeah, Logan is an incredible guy. I was lucky enough to develop, I think, to be what is a good friendship for the future. Um, Jimmy as well. I mean, they completely different characters. Um, Jimmy is, yeah, he's great, and he's wise. He's so wise. He's like a 40-year old businessman, wise. He knows exactly how to think about something in the way in which to um, turn it into really good business, if that makes sense. Um, and then obviously Casey, who's a dear friend of mine, and he's just hilariously funny. And I think the three of them together was like the craziest mix of creators. And yeah, it was amazing for South Africa, and it was really great for Cape Town. I think the tourism board hopefully will see we'll be able to benefit from having them here and them speaking about it. I got a text from Logan last night just to say how incredible uh, Cape Town is and how much he loved being here in South Africa.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And something that Casey's done, and you have done as well, and to some extent the others, is sort of moving away from traditional media formats and sort of usurping academic styles of filmmaking. Like you and Casey now both have your own sort of online film schools, and you're sort of really pushing the message that film school is far less necessary than it was, say, 20, 30 years ago. What is so important to you about taking on this traditional academic style of filmmaking?
Again, I don't want to piss anyone off because I
Well,
did one
yeah.
I did 1 year of film college, yeah, and I did an interview like way back when I first got some recognition for a film that I did when I was much younger, and I won a YDA at Cannes. And here they wrote this ridiculous headline. They were like, "Film school dropout becomes red carpet regular." I was never on a red carpet, you know what I mean? And I wasn't a film school dropout either. So I think that people take, yeah, what my words a bit out of context. I think film school, the issue with film school is it's very expensive. And not everybody can, they're only in select areas, and they're usually in CBDs, in capitals, and it's very difficult for many people to be able to attain. And the thing about these online courses is that they are highly attainable. You can also hear from the master in their craft. I'm not calling myself a master. This is me speaking about Casey's online course. Okay. Um, and yeah, you get to hear from the people that you aspire to make films like that you support, and you've watched their craft. You get to see the behind the scenes. It makes so much more sense. You can say for the same price it costs to go to film college, you can do 10 different online courses from 10 different creators or creative people, and be able to figure that all out. I think also another problem with film school is that it's very much set in one way. There's one curriculum that they keep on revisiting. Um, And I don't even think they really at film school now are teaching the style of being an all-encompassing filmmaker. So you can write your own piece, you can edit. They're very much supporting the traditional system of, there's has to be a producer on set that's got a PM, and there's a director with a first AD, and there's gaffers and the whole lighting department, and etc. etc. So and it's very specialized. So yeah, I think, for some people it'll work if that's the route you want to go down, but definitely not for me.
Yeah, there is sort of this war waging at the moment between traditional formats and YouTube, and it has been raging for many years, and I assume it'll rage for many years to come. You've sort of split your time evenly in the well, maybe not evenly, but you've certainly split your time between your YouTube stuff and then directing commercials and films. What do you see as sort of the pros and cons of each format briefly? And do you think there will ever be a true winner for people's attention?
I like how you said briefly in there, because you knew that I could have probably gone off and spoken for like an hour.
It's a big question.
Yeah, because okay, my problem, I don't know if it's a problem again. My thing is that I only come up with answers when I'm speaking. So like, if you went to watch something of me 3 years ago, I probably contradict myself, because the more I learn, you know, it's like everything that's in my mind, it like comes out. And yeah, so it probably this is all making sense to me while I'm busy speaking to you. But the traditional world again is it's not easier. It's there's much more support. Um, so when you're doubting yourself or your creative vision, there's always someone there to have your back and remind you of what the original idea was. There's always somebody, especially if you get to work with highly creative teams. You get to work with, sometimes if you're lucky enough, you get to work with really, really great creative directors, which will have your best interest. Then you've got your producer, who's your wingman, your right hand man or right hand woman. You've got a whole team around you that you usually work with, and a DP. But then you are locked into sticking to kind of one thing, because you've got a whole team. They all understand the way that you've originally pitched this thing, and it's very difficult to make big changes. When you are a YouTuber or a one man band, or even if there's two of you, when you start to doubt the idea, it becomes very, very tough. When you kind of pitch this idea to somebody and they don't laugh if you thought it was funny, the whole thing comes crashing down, and you start to try and think that you should change, rethink this, and there's no one to really turn to. You don't have that production support. However, you are able to make those changes, and you have the last say. It's your creative. You get to do what you set out. Not what you set out to do. You get to serve your creative purpose. And halfway through, if you feel like that wasn't working, you can turn direction and create something else with it, which can never happen in traditional space unless you like Spike Jones or Darren Aronofsky. But I still feel like they would struggle too. So yeah, I live with one foot on either side of the fence, and I know that that is it's never a good thing. I got to throw myself 100% into one of them, but I could just never make a decision, because I just have so much self-doubt uh, most of the time, and I struggle with my mental health and my depression and my anxiety, which weighs heavily on my ability to make decisions based on myself. And that's why it's sometimes easier for me to then work with a creative team, because they go, this is the right thing to do. Don't worry if you're down. We'll have your back. We'll make sure this goes through. And then when that's not a problem for me, and I'm feeling confident and everything is good, and I'm stuck in this traditional side, I go like, I just want to break free. I want to do this other thing. So I mean, I think for myself, I've been able to balance it out in the way in which it best kind of serves my mental health, and what some people call a disposition, but I've been kind of been able to try and turn it into a good thing. Yeah.
Well, it's a testament to your versatility that you're able to continually do both, and not just crumble under both guises. And also dovetailing from that, is there anything that particularly gets under your skin when people in the traditional side of things talk about YouTube when they clearly don't understand it?
I think it's all changed now. I think that people still like some people they don't understand. Um, and I find myself now, I watch TikTok videos and some of them I just don't get. Like I absolutely don't get it. But within the Gen Z market, and even the Gen Alpha market, like we're going way, like we're talking 8-year olds, that are finding this stuff funny and relatable. I've realized that I'm just one of those traditional people that just didn't understand. Um, like my cousins are like, I don't know, 17, and they play me this music and they say this is like the new shit. This is good. And I listen to it and I never thought I'd be this person that goes, fuck, this is shit. Like this is not music to me. But what do I know? It's about the market. So it used to piss me off. Um, But when I left my traditional job as a film director in 2017, and I got told that I'm gonna downgrade to being a YouTuber. That was, I think, the first time. It didn't really piss me off then. It made me like really ambitious to try and make a career out of it, because I think that was at the brink of people starting to develop this, being able to make money on YouTube. Um, But other than that, I mean, for me, I think if my content was slightly different, I would be getting a lot more comments. I try and balance between art and commerce. I try and find myself somewhere in the middle. If I'm moving too much on the commerce side, I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of comments that come from people that just don't understand, and they go, this is not art, or this is the death of art or whatever. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I can imagine some people say that. Yeah.
Of all the projects that you've worked on, of which there are many, are there any in particular that sort of lesser known about or underappreciated in your books that you've got a bit of a soft spot for and you wish that more people were aware of?
Well, now what we're working on, the Brew Show, like if we had a look at metrics and successes, when I was first making YouTube videos and I was in the flow and I was like serving the platform, the views were a lot higher. But when I watch those films back, they're cringy to me. It's hard for me to watch them. And then the stuff now, I'm like, yo, okay, I'm actually excited about them. They look pretty good, but the views are less. But I just think that that's the landscape of YouTube nowadays. I think that it's very difficult to get views like we used to be able to get in 2017, 2018. But a project, the one that I've actually been the most passionate about is the one that hasn't been released yet, but it's only on Discovery Plus. It'll come on YouTube. Is the happiness film with the 100 different filmmakers around the world. When I watched that, um, so editing it is one thing, and then watching it back, and then when I watched it, I cried, like properly cried, tears of it. I've never felt more connected to something. And watching the footage of all these people, all these like-minded people around the world, all speaking about one simple or two simple things that make them happy, not in a cliched sense. That's where I was worried where the film was going to go. I thought it was going to be could have come out cheesy, cliche, like a Pinterest quote or something. But the uniqueness of the answers, and when you step back and you realize how much talent and beauty is out there, like, oh, geez, it's beautiful. I'll send it to you. It's yeah, it's something super special, and I hope that enough people get to see it so that they can. It's something to make you smile, for sure,
Yeah,
when you're
it
feeling down.
was it was a privilege to be part of the group of filmmakers contributing to that. Um,
Awesome, yeah, thank you.
just before we wrap up, I know we're running swiftly out of time. I know we've talked a lot about your career thus far. Are there any creative outlets outside of your work that keep you creatively fulfilled?
Yeah, music is a big passion of mine. I've always said if I wasn't in film, I think I would have been a musician of some sort. I can't sing at all, but I can play a few different instruments. I'm actually in the music studio now. I'm sitting here because this is like this whole place is deadened, like this the sound. So I kind of like to sit in here sometimes and just think. It's just a good place to do like meetings like this. I think yeah, music for me is like one of those things where I just don't think when it's happening, and that's really great. And then surfing for me, being in the ocean, is a big part of my life. I'm actually developing. See, this is another thing. I've got another film on the go. It's called Blue Mind Theory, and it's about the ocean or large bodies of water and how it reduces anxiety. But it's also a play on obviously my blue mind, which is it's got a lot to do with depression and anxiety and how I find a a state of stillness when I'm surrounded by this massive thing that's so much bigger than I am and so much bigger than my thoughts and my problems. So I've stopped being so like aggressive as a surfer. When I was younger, you had to be in competitions. You would have to be constantly moving and going, and it would be just about how well you surf. Where nowadays I look at the ocean completely differently, and I can paddle out when there's no waves, and just sit there. Um, so yeah, it's music and the ocean would definitely be two outlets for me. Yeah, the biggest ones.
A lot of creatives have likened the feeling of sort of perfectly catching a wave when you're surfing to sort of entering a flow state in creativity.
Yeah,
And I think there's a lot of parallels there that can be drawn.
Timothy Leary, yeah, has got like such a great quote. Um, it's something about yeah, the future is ahead of you and the past is right behind you, and you're like in this perfect state of presence, and you can't be you balanced between the two. Um, yeah, it's a beautiful sentiment.
Well, one final question that I ask everybody on this podcast at the end is a pretty ambiguous one and potentially another difficult one to answer concisely. But it's just as a creative, what does creativity mean to you?
I've written a lot of different answers for this. Um, I think it's about believing in an idea so much that you turn it into some form of art. Um, I think that it's about, yeah, it's a projection of what's on the inside. Um, it's like trying to make sense of an unanswered question in a form of music, dance, poetry, filmmaking, architecture. Even I still look at it and I like my brother-in-law is a I don't really know what to call it. It's like a chartered accountant or something. He makes like a ton of money doing spreadsheets and shit. Um, but that is creative in its own way. He has to find loopholes and things, and you know, I kind of look at anything like that as some form of being able to figure things out and put it into some form of action. Hope that makes sense.
There's so many different manifestations of creativity in every walk of life. So that was very well put. Well, we're out of time, but thank you so much for joining me, Dan. It's been a real
Thank you.
pleasure to have you on, and
Amazing.
it's going to be amazing to have you in Iceland for the Creativity Conference in August this coming year.
Yeah, can't wait. It's going to be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll see some of you tuning in at home, coming as attendees because it's going to be an unbelievably cool event. And yeah, thank you again for listening, and thanks again for
Awesome.
joining me, Dan.
Perfect. Cheers.
Thank you for watching, and hopefully you enjoyed the interview. As I said at the beginning, it was a real honor to interview Dan. And check out the other interview I did with Tom Scar, also up somewhere on the internet. And check out some other episodes of the podcast. I've interviewed some truly incredible creatives, from Hollywood ACE certified editors to drone pilots to fine artists and photographers. So there's a real smorgasbord of people out there for you to have a little listen to or watch if you fancy seeing more of my face.